Rabotai, we are in the middle of learning the dinim of Boider.
Boider, to choose?
Yeah.
Page 9 base.
I believe we're holding page Taf Kuf Mem Dalid.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Mem Dalid. Oh, cool. Here we go.
Taf Kuf Mem Dalid.
Yeah.
Sif Yud Aleph.
Okay.
So.
Wait 1 second. I'll show it this way.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
So Rabbi Sai, we took a little break last week. We learned something else, but we're in the middle of discussing one of the 39 malachas on Shabbos. The 39 work is the prohibition of Boyer selecting good, bad from the good from the bad. You're not allowed to make such type of selections on Shabbos. It means you have food. I think we spoke in one of the earlier shiurim, you were here, and this this chapter, we deal with all the halachas that pertain to when you're allowed to do Boyer, when not. In this sif over here, we learn what happens. You have oichol psoilis hamuravim. If you have food and other items which are not edible, waste matter together, and you want to separate them, and you want to put them into water. Some people like to soak the potatoes in water or other things, and they want to clean it that way and separate one from the other. Also, litna b'mayim, you're not allowed to place them in water. Kidei sheyipol apsoilos lamata, in order that the waste matter, the bad parts, should fall down. Kegoyin, for example, shapsoilos will offer. The psoilos is dirt.
The waste matter.
The dirt will fall down. The heavier, it will fall downwards. Or the waste matter will float on its own up when you put it in water. Kegoyin should have like straw. Straw is light, so you don't want the straw. The straw will go up, and this will be a way of you selecting and dividing the good from the bad.
This is compost?
No, he's talking about if there's food laying in front of you mixed in with waste matter of some sort.
Let's say it has
what would be
chaff or other things like the wheat.
Chaff?
Yeah, the kernels. Yeah, you could have, if you want to separate it.
But this, sorry, here's the shaila then. Is this food that's readily available to eat, or must it still be cooked? Are you discussing here food that's already prepared for Shabbos and it gets mixed in with waste matter? Or are you talking food that hasn't really been prepared? Is an under a mindset?
Well, I'm not sure what they ate on their meals those days, but it's not the food that we have today. It's not sushi.
I understand. What I'm driving at is specifically this evening.
No, it has to be food which is edible Shabbos. Otherwise, you're not allowed to prepare for the weekday.
So something must have... So theoretically, just talking off the top of my head, with all due respect, this could also be you have eggs, chopped eggs in front of you, and the shells got mixed in.
Right?
Would this...
Correct. Very good example.
So then theoretically, and they go on to say to put it, you cannot put it in water.
Yeah. Let's say people have the fruits and vegetables are dirty, and they put it into a bucket of water.
Okay.
And the dirt either goes down or the lighter particles float up, and you separate it.
But you can't do it. Regardless, you can't do it.
You can't do that on Shabbos. V'cheina kashinim, it's type of animal food. Ein shoynoitz b'mayim, we don't let it rest in water, soak in water. Kedei lahatzif hapsoilo shem lamayla, in order to float the psoilos, the waste, upwards. That's one thing. V'leishafan oisim biyad, one is not allowed to rub them with one's hand on the outside of these these items. Lahasa hapsoilos, to remove the dirty parts on the outside, or certain types of coverings that are covered with natural kiddushu kabayr, because that's like bayr. You're selecting, taking the bad parts away from the good parts. In Shabbos, you could do things that are in a manner of eating, not in a manner of work. So if I'm sort of like separating and dividing things to organize it for use in the future, that's called bayr. But if I'm doing this as a method to eat, it's different. I'm eating. So even over here, if you're eating, but putting something in a bucket and putting it up, that's not something the way people usually eat. That's like something you separate in the longer term. So that's considered work on Shabbos. That constitutes like work. It's not considered preparing to eat. You're allowed to cut your vegetables and prepare your food to eat. This is already goes into the area of work. So before we go further, one of the issues that bother the poskim is how do we wash fruits and vegetables on Shabbos? Before we make our salads, before we eat a fruit, we eat a vegetable, we wash it. People like to wash it. So when we wash it, aren't we doing what it says over here? We're separating the good from the bad. We're washing off the dirt on the outside to have a nice clean fruit or vegetable. Aren't we doing exactly what the Shulchan Aruch says here is usher? Is not allowed to do. So how does this? So some say maybe you should refrain, but l'maisa it's not the minig. The poskim say you're allowed to wash fruits and vegetables on Shabbos. The question is, what's the understanding behind it? Seemingly, it really falls into this category. So some want to say, there's a difference between putting it into a basin, where you're putting it in a basin or putting it underneath water. Different. But the issue is that the Shulchan Aruch says also you're not allowed to rub it with your hand. So if you're rubbing with your hand, it's not in the basin. So some actually say that there's a different nusach over here to the Shulchan Aruch. It's supposed to say, "V'loi shafan oisem b'yad lahatzif." So it's not lahasir to remove. Lahatzif, meaning it's to make it rise and float in the water. Meaning it's talking about putting the vegetables inside,
Then when you put inside,
putting it in the basin,
And wash it while
and via rubbing it, because the dirt is stuck to it inside the water. So if you learn that way, you could say it's only when you're doing it in a big vessel, which seems like that's like work, malacha. But if you're doing it just underneath the sink, you're pouring a little water on it, that's not work. That's getting it ready just for eating.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what most of us do today.
Right. Another thing people say is that we know clearly, it's clear in Poskim, you're allowed to wash your dishes on Shabbos. I'm saying not for washing it for after Shabbos, but washing for things that you need on Shabbos. You want to wash your dishes. So how are you allowed to wash a cup or a bowl with food residue on it? Are you not separating, taking away the bad from the good? Because as we learned earlier, the halachas of Bayra apply not only to food items, even to other things which aren't food, even in the Mishkan. Now we're reading this week's parashas now, in the Torah portions, we're reading about the building of the Mishkan and right, the Beis HaMikdash. And Lamaisa, where do we see that Boyer was a malacha, was an act of work, was in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, in the desert? One of the things that they did there was they had to separate when they made the dyes that they made to dye the curtains and the beautiful curtains that were in the Mishkan, the Yeriyes. They needed to separate the bad parts, the good parts. So this is one of the things that was done. This is one of the activities that was done there. And this is an activity that's prohibited on Shabbos. So that's not food. It's not food. So even when it's not a food item, so you have dishes, so you're taking off the dirt off a fork. So some say, look, if you're allowed to do that, what's the difference between washing a fruit? So obviously, for some reason, it's mutter. Others want to say you can't bring a proof from there because cups, utensils, and food, even though there is boyer associated with utensils, that's when you have mixed utensils, a mixed pile of forks and spoons and knives, that's considered boyer selecting it. But food and a cup is not mixed, it's not a mixture, this is a cup and this is a food and there's no mixing over here. So you can't apply the concept of a mixture. The whole concept of boyer selecting only applies when you have a mixture. When lechatchila there's no mixture, this is here and this is here, there's no mixture. So they say some residue on a cup, that's not a mixture, so you don't have a proof from there. But the Maisa, another svara to bring up over here is this taina that when you wash the fruits and the vegetables, it's not like you have like a pile of dirt and a pile of vegetables. You wash it, it's not even nicker, you don't see anything happening here. It's not like there's a boiler here. When you put it in the basin, you see, here's the dirt over here and here's the vegetables. You wash it off, it's little pieces that go into the water, it washes away. it's not nicker, it's not clear, not recognizable, say that's not butter.
If I have a bucket with 10 apples and one of them rotten and I take it out, it's obvious that I'm boiling the bed. But by taking all the 10 apples and washing it, it doesn't look like I'm a boiler or anything.
Right. Now, by the way, anyways, today's days, the fruits and vegetables we get from the stores are very clean, really. It's not like it was those days, in the farm. Things, they're cleaning it and they're washing it. People still wash it. We're American in our society. We still wash it, and there's pesticides in it. There's this and that. We want to wash it.
A lot of poison in it, so.
Unless we have organic, then there might be actual real dirt on it. So the Maisa is that people still wash it, but it's not even like really dirt, visible dirt. People wash the food, they don't look to see if there's dirt on it. They take the pepper and they wash it. Is there any dirt on it? There's not really anything visible. If pesticides that's not visible, it's for sure not an issue of butter. It's not something sprays, you can't see it. So it's not even at all a metzius. It doesn't exist in the Talmud of Halacha to say I'm making butter. There's nothing here. There's no real dirt on it. The potatoes are dirty, but you don't make potatoes on Shabbos because you can't cook it anyway. So what are you making the potatoes? So Lamaisa, the Poskim say for different various reasons that they want to differentiate between what it says over here, these things which are also to do on Shabbos. On the other hand, the things that are washing fruits and vegetables is not. But one thing to point out, the washing, like we said last week, 2 weeks ago, in the halachas of Bayer, there are three rules that you need to be kept. One is that you need to take the good from the bad, means the oichel from the psoilus. Number two, you needed to do it la'alter, for immediate use. And biyad, you should do it with your hands and not with a keli, a special utensil, like a sifter or something which helps. Now, so when you're washing the fruits and vegetables, it should be done prior to the meal. Not like to say a few hours before you wash the vegetables for a meal later. It should be done as a preparation for the upcoming meal. Having a meal soon.
It's called altar.
So that we'll call the altar. Just to be on the safe side and to do it the right manner.
Do not prepare for the next meal.
Right. And even in this meal itself, not to do it a few hours before. And there is one of the Rishonim which held you're allowed to do it a few hours before, as long as it's for the upcoming meal. But you can't prepare for one meal for the next meal. Like you want to do 2 meals. Let's say for the morning meal, I'm prepare shalosh shudas also. That you can't do.
Makes sense.
But lahalacha, you're supposed to. We're makbid to do
when somebody is eating fish. I was reading an article once about you eating fish with the bones in it. There's fish that they have bones in it. Is this concept hold true the same way? The concept of borer? So if you're going to separate the food from the actual bones that are in the fish.
No, but how you eat it? You take the whole piece and put it in.
Yes. You have to do it. You have to do it for a meal.
You take the little beindel out.
Yeah, exactly. You don't separate and then eat it.
I'll stick with gefilte.
That's why the gefilte fish came to our table.
This was a good idea. Because I don't like fish with bones.
No, that's the reason gefilte fish came to our table. Because of this problem. Yeah.
Wow. One of the reasons they say is because of the issues that we had with the bones and everything and eating
separating the bones from the fish.
Yeah.
They say that was one of the reasons why gefilte fish was invented.
Makes sense what the gentleman said.
Ben Ishkai permits you to do that. You permits taking the bones out.
There are poskim that permit taking the bones and
you're going to choke it.
It depends. Let's say you have chicken bones. The poskim say you hold the bone with the knife and you pull the chicken off. Right. And as well with fish that has larger bones, and you could do that. Fish that have very tiny bones that you don't have any way to do it, so then
you take it in your mouth and you spit out the bones is what
but if you're not someone who would do that, then you don't have to. You could take it out right before you eat it. But it's only if there's no other way.
Big deal.
If there's no other way to do it. Because if there's even though you're taking the psilos, the bad from the good, but when there's there's different ways how to say what's the reasoning behind why it's mutter, because seemingly you're taking the bad from the good, you're taking the bones away. One way is to say when you have no other way to do it, that's considered a method of eating, not a method of work. Derech achila v'loy derech malacha. That's one mahalach in Poskim. Another mahalach to say is that we one time spoke about the Maharshal. His shita is that any psoilus, any bad parts of the food that are still attached to the food, while they're attached, they don't yet have the status of psoilus of being bad. There's no shilas of boirer. So while the eggshell is still attached to the egg, there's no shilah boirer because it's all one unit. Once the eggshell and the egg are detached, or the nut and the shell are detached, the peel and the fruit are detached, then you can have an issue of boirer. That's the shita of the mashal. However, there is a lot of questions on the shita and things like that. So we do use that shita, but in combination with something else. So, if you need, we rely on that opinion. Now, by the way, regarding peeling, just I don't know if we got into it last time.
Yeah, we spoke about that in chont. The Sephardi people put in the chont the egg.
Right.
In order to eat it, you have to peel the egg, and then you could eat it on Shabbos.
Well, there's no other way.
Right, there's no other way. So you're taking the psoilus.
Like an orange, like a banana.
Like a banana, exactly.
Right? It's clear in Paiskim that's mutter. There's no shaila about it. The question is the reasoning why peeling or cracking nuts. What's the reason behind it? And once we know the logic behind it, it can help us understand what would be the halach in other situations. And that's not so clear because the Shulchan Aruch itself does not say what the logic behind the heter of peeling fruits is when seemingly you're taking away the psoilus. So we know it's mutter. The shaila is what's the svara behind it, what's the logic behind it, and that there's an arguments about it.
What is
one way of understanding it is that the basis behind it is that if there's no other way to get to the food, it would be it's mutter to take away the psoilus, the bad, because that's considered the derech achila, the normal way to eat. The general heterim of boirer are based on if it's a derech achila, it's mutter. If it's a derech malacha, a way of working, it's aser. That's so. This is the normal way you eat a banana. There's no other way to eat a banana. It's not like you're showing like I'm making us. I'm trying to make boirer here. I'm trying to eat. So that's one way. One way is saying. Another way is learning like the Mahashal of Shlomo Luria. He held that understanding behind it is that kolzman the peels are attached. And that's the way it grew naturally. It's considered one unit, and it's not doesn't have a status of psoilus when it comes to boirer halachas until it's detached. Once it's no longer in its natural place, detached, and they're mixed together, peels and other things, and you want to clean them and remove the bad, then you're now to remove the bad from the good. But when the actual peels are attached the way they were naturally, there's no concept of taking away psoilus. The halachas of boirer don't apply. That's what the Mahashal's chiddush was. And that's a way of understanding of what the heter of peeling. He says it regarding taking off nuts, opening up nuts on Shabbos. But the poskim say the similar vein would be the way we understand peeling fruits. So there's two ways to understand it. I have no other way to do it. It automatically becomes mutter because it's a derech achila. Or to say it's not because there's no other way to do it. It's because it's one unit. And that's the way it was naturally grown.
Like for example, a pomegranate. When you open it, the only way to eat it, you have to remove the
pomegranate. You want the seeds.
No, you want the seeds.
Yeah, but you have to
a lot of peels, the center.
You have no other way. Yeah.
Bitter. You must take it out. You can't eat it.
So you cut it open.
Right, and then you have like
and you scoop out the seeds,
the
right?
Seed. But on the seed you have these little leaves.
White pieces.
You don't want to eat it.
Yeah, the white pieces in the middle.
What is this? It's psoilus.
Right? He doesn't want to eat it. You don't want to eat it. You push it away.
No.
And you do it in Shabbos. You're allowed to take it out.
If you have no choice.
Because there's no other way.
Theoretically, all of this is derech achila regardless, isn't it? The banana, the orange, the nuts.
All of these are mutter.
There is no purpose otherwise. Why would I touch
One thing is, by the way, peelers, regarding peelers on Shabbos, one should not use a peeler on Shabbos. In most cases, one should not use a peeler. However, if it's a fruit.
I want to do a cucumber. Don't use the peeler, use the knife.
So the poskim say like this: what happens if you have an apple, which most people eat the apple with the peel?
Right.
So then the peel is not considered psoilus. It's not considered waste matter.
You
it's
just don't want to
considered
eat this food.
one unit with the apple.
Right.
So for some reason, you personally don't want to have the apple with the peel. Or
Right.
Child
I don't
doesn't
like
want
the apple with the peel.
Okay, so we have someone he doesn't like child. So you, according to certain poskim,
It's also for mocha.
that would be you would be allowed even more than that. It's considered like all one type. Just like we spoke a few weeks ago, that the whole concepts of bayra only apply to two different types of species, two minim. I have a mixture of bananas and oranges and apples. But amongst apples themselves, unless one's rotten, but regular apples, there's no bayra. If I want to take all the big ones on one side, the small ones on the other side, that's not shilas of bayra, it's all one type. Bayra is only when you're selecting two different types from one from another. So an apple, when the peel is edible, and not only is it edible, majority people eat it with the peel.
You just don't want to eat it.
You or a minority of the people don't want to eat it with the peel, so it's not considered like it's psoilus,
Right.
because most people enjoy eating it.
Eat
So
it.
there's no way that's going to consider waste matter.
No.
It's not waste matter, and since it's not psoilus, it's not even like two separate things. It's one apple. It's one unit. There's no bayra by one unit, and therefore, according to their shita, according to their opinion, you'll be allowed to use a peeler on apples,
Oh,
and as well. Now cucumbers,
Some people
that you
eat
have
it.
to go into cucumbers to
Some
see
people eat it
what the
with it.
majority is with cucumbers, because some people cut it with the peel, some people don't.
Right.
No, some people
What do
eat
you
it
do
with
then?
a with a with a.
yeah.
What about switching to nuts? I say walnuts. Are you allowed to break the walnut?
Yeah, you could break the walnut open because it's like a peel.
Ah.
Yeah, but once the walnut is cracked,
Can you use a cracker?
you can use a cracker. But once it's cracked,
Uh-huh.
and you have a whole mixture of pieces,
Right.
you got to be careful to pull out the walnuts and not the shells.
That's why.
That's the Insha Bayer over there.
Thank you.
When they're attached together and I have no way to get to it, then I'm allowed to crack it open and take away the bad from the good. But once I have a pile here and I have the ability to take the oichel, take the good, the fruit from the shells, I have to take the fruit from the shells.
We're allowed to use knife and Shabbos, right?
Sure.
So why peeler not? Peeler is a knife, same thing. What's
It's
the
a tool.
difference?
It's a tool.
Knife.
What's the
knife,
difference
A
between peeler
peeler.
and
A peeler
Makes
is,
it
is
easier.
made. Knife
So?
is used for cutting. Knife is used also for cutting. Knife is used not only for buyer. A peeler is specifically made for selecting, taking bad parts from good. That's what a peeler is. Peeler is to peel off the peels, which you don't want to eat. Peel potatoes. So a peeler is what's considered a keli for buyer. It's an actual keli for buyer. The only time we can permit using a keli for a buyer, using the actual utensil, which is made for buyer, made for selecting, would be if there is no issue of buyer at all. Like an apple peel, there's no questions of buyer because most people eat it.
I see.
Well, Maisa, for most situations, it's better taka to try to avoid using the peeler. But in these cases where it's evidently clear that a lot of people do eat the peels, but to go peel something which people don't eat, and I'm a little bit uncertain about cucumbers, what the majority is. It's not clear to me. The majority of people peel it or they don't peel it.
Right. Some people eat the cucumber with the peels.
Yeah, a lot of salads people chop up, Israeli salads, and they have peels in it. And
This is
some people like to
well.
take cucumbers and put in their mouth. They like to cut slices. And
Yeah.
so it's not, it could very well be that a lot,
דרך אכילה סוף.
yeah. So that's a question about the...
In Eretz Yisrael, they like to have it with the peel. In America, they like it without the peel.
Uh-huh.
So maybe you have to ask it out if it's,
So maybe it depends on each country.
it's in each country. And such as,
Maybe it depends on each country. Let's learn a little bit more. We're gonna skip a few paragraphs and a few sifim.
I'm just curious, what word is this? In C, Yud Aleph, I need to know the third word.
Oh, we didn't finish actually. The third word. Oh, bikvara. Okay, we didn't finish it. Right, we're we're in the
What's
last,
bikvara?
second to last line in Yud Aleph. Al nois bikvara. You're allowed to place these items in a kvara, in a sifter. Even though the psoilus, the bad parts, fall down through the holes of the sifter, and on its own, without moving the sifter around, when you put if you put a whole a bunch of, let's say, wheat or something, kernels or something, and there's pieces of stones or other little pieces in there, and you put it there, there's going to be pieces that are going to fall down, and the dirt's going to separate. So you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. Now this is a little bit difficult to understand, because what do you mean? I'm putting it in a sifter on Shabbos. Sifting is that's really that's the primary concept of Bayer, is you take a sifter and you sift. You're sifting, selecting.
Like you're not allowed to take flour and shift on Shabbos.
Right. So the basic thing over here is that the basic shot is I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Someone wants to use it like a storage, like a storage. He just has a sifter sitting there, and he wants to put in the sifter, just put some things in there, sit it in there, and on its own, some of it comes out. He's using it like a keli, to a vessel to hold things in, a utensil. So that's l'chora why he's saying it's mutter. The shaila is, even so, that even if we claim the person did not have intentions to do a process of bayra, but since the bayra happens automatic, this falls under the concept called psik reisha v'layamos. Psik reisha v'layamos is, if someone says, I want to cut the head of a bird, not because I want to kill the bird, just because my son wants to play with the top of those days, that was an item, they didn't have teddy bears. So he says, I'm not, it's called psik reisha. This is a halachic, to bring a halachic concept, it's called psik reisha. You cut off the head, v'layamos, it's not going to die. Of course it's going to die, meaning, sometimes someone could claim, I didn't intend to kill the bird. I just intended for something else. A halacha, even if your intention was something else, but it was when you did an act that was called a psik reisha, it was for sure going to happen. Whether you had intentions or you didn't have intentions, it's awesome. For example, you opened up the refrigerator door. You know that you didn't turn off your electricity on Shabbos, on the turn off the light bulb.
Right.
So you open the fridge door, the light bulb's going to turn on.
But you knew the light was going to turn on.
Did I open the fridge to turn on the light?
No,
I didn't know, but I opened up to get my food. But the light bulb's going to turn on. That falls into the category of a davar she'enim eskaven. You don't have kavanah for it. You have no intention to do the act. You don't. However, it's a psik reisha. It's going to happen. Just like you cut the bird's head because you want the toy. Obviously, you want that. Obviously, the bird's going to die. So you did an act of killing. You killed the bird. So the same thing here is, you can't claim I didn't have intentions. If your act directly causes it, it's asur. It's prohibited. The question over here is how in this last line of it, it's a Shulchan Aruch, and this comes originally from a Mishnah in Gemara Shabbos, that how is it okay to go and put have a sifter sitting hanging, and I put my stuff in there and the food items, and it's going to sift on its own, even though I didn't plan on sifting it. I just put it there to sit there, but it's sifting it. Isn't that a psik reisha? So some want to say the Eino Chanami over here, it's not talking about that it's going to, matter of fact, happen. The halacha is, if there's chances that it won't happen, it's not a psik reisha. It's not a definite. So you're allowed to do an act which will not definitely create an act which is prohibited.
So it's intent.
And you don't have the intent to do it, it will be mutter. If it's for sure going to happen, and I don't have the intent, like opening up the refrigerator, it's asur. But what happens if I have a light bulb that not always turns on when I open the fridge? It's faulty. Sometimes it will help turn on. Or I'll give you the classic example from the Gemara, from the Talmud says. The Gemara says, someone will drag a bench, which is not a heavy bench. He will drag it on the ground. You're not allowed to dig on Shabbos, but dig a group.
Creating a furrow.
So he's going to create a furrow. Now, if you don't know, it's not for sure it's going to happen. It's not necessarily going to happen. Like, maybe it will make a furrow, maybe not. Not necessarily. So then, if I don't have intention to it, I'm just trying to schlep it because I want to bring it to the shul, to the kiddush, and I want to just bring it over, and it's not for sure going to happen, I'm allowed to do it because I had two conditions. It was a davar she'enim eskaven. I did not have intention to do any work, and the work is not for sure going to happen. It's not a psik reisha. It's not going to definitely happen. Maybe yes, maybe not. So if it happens, it doesn't have any connection with me. It happened on its own. So over here, some want to say it's not talking about over here a situation where it's for sure going to sift. It could be sometimes particles fall down and it sort of makes a sort of selection, and sometimes it doesn't. So therefore, it's not an issue. You know how it's not clear. Others want to say that no, over here, even if it's gonna for sure happen, it's still mutter. How could that be? It's a psik reisha. It's obviously gonna happen. They say like this. They say the logic is that over here I didn't actually do work. I didn't do malacha. Why? I didn't touch the sifter. Usually when people sift, you take the sifter in your hands and you shake it. That's the way you do sifting. Right? The sifter over here is sitting or hanging something, and I just put some things on top of it. I didn't do any act. I didn't do an act of work. It's not like I did an act of work. I put it in there, and the work happened, the selection happened on its own. The buyer happened on its own. So that case, if you didn't have intent, even though it's for sure going to happen, but I sort of like I got the ball rolling, but I didn't actually do the act. I didn't shake it. So it's sort of like what's called grumma. Grumma means
is to cause and effect. So
cause, right? So on Shabbos, the Isser grumma is only midrabanan. If I did something not directly, I indirectly did something, so it gets complicated. In Hilchas Shabbos, it gets complicated. They had, if you recall, a few years ago, there was someone created some type of thing called a kosher Shabbos switch.
Oh yeah.
With technology, he had somehow wanted to develop something whereby you'd be able to turn on the light on Shabbos, and he said that it's not direct, and it's not gonna. Somehow he had some system worked out. In the ending, there was an uproar, and the rabbis came out and they said that they didn't hold of it. It wasn't. They said the way it was developed, it's not good. But people were trying to figure out ways how they can make it that it's not direct, and not consider like I'm doing the act.
But come on, Madrait. That's all this is, Madrait.
That's right. That's what the
It's not the
Rabbanim.
spirit of the law.
That's what Rabbi David Feinstein came down. All the Rabbanim said. They said that this is you're going to turn Shabbos into. They'll soon do everything on Shabbos. You'll be able to do everything, right?
You could, in our generation, you could do on clock. The wash machines will start.
Yeah, I know this story.
Television,
obviously.
radio, everything.
But this is already not in keeping the spirit of the law, spirit
Exactly.
of Shabbat.
You don't feel any-
Right, and also people. That's
Come
for
on,
sure.
come on,
And some
come on,
people
come on.
found out, but they also found not only the
You want to
spirit.
do it, you do it. You don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. You're going to observe what you have to observe. I mean, it's already dancing. How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? With all due respect. With all due respect. Kol hakavod laka.
Yeah, so Lamaisa, the Rabbanim did not allow, the rabbis did not allow that, not for one of the reasons what Nathan says, because of the spirit, but as well, they found halachic issues with it as well, that it did not conform with, it did not manage to conform with the halacha. It was a nice idea, but it did not conform with the halacha. Now we have other things people make for Shabbos, where you turn on the light, they have on the light bulb, a light bulb cover.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
The light bulb
yeah.
cover, where so you know
They
you
also got now motor scooters that you can use on Shabbos. You see the ads in the press all the time.
but meant for elderly, is probably
Well,
your infirm.
yeah, of course.
So they're using certain heterim for the elderly.
They want somebody to go to shul. There's somebody I wouldn't question. A
And
15-year-old kid sitting on a scooter, I may have a problem with.
Yeah. We always have to remember halacha is objective and subjective. It is dependent on the person's situation, meaning not everything is subjective, but when we have different opinions and we have other things to rely upon, even though we to begin with are stringent in certain halachas, but certain cases when it comes to someone elderly, someone not feeling well, the halacha does take in consideration, or there's a great loss. Sometimes, in certain situations, not all certain situations there's room for leniency. So there is certain subjectivity.
If I have a lamp on Shabbos and it's too light, I'm allowed to take a towel to put in the tap to cover it.
Yeah, just don't make it should be safe, but yeah, you can do it.
Of course, but
That was one of the
I don't
gimmicks they
change
came
the
up with,
status
the
of.
light on Shabbos.
They have the kosher lamp, the Shabbos
There you
lamp,
go.
you know.
There you go.
I
And
don't
now
know.
they have the light bulbs. They have actual light bulbs
Yeah.
that you could just turn, cover the light bulb.
Right. I saw that.
It doesn't save you electricity, but you'll be able to sleep, you know, and keep you. So those are all permissible things.
So what happened to the Onyx Shabbat? I want to enjoy Shabbat.
That's the Onyx Shabbos that you could take the
Yeah,
switch
close
and
the light. Yeah, there you go.
had a little bit of a miracle a few weeks ago, and I wasn't home then, but I heard the story from my came home. All my kids came. They have to show me something. There was one of my kids had the baby and another. And my oldest son, another of the older boys, was 8 years old. Somehow was playing in the socket. There was sitting the baby's listening piece. To listen, the baby naps. You can listen in.
Oh, the microphone.
Right, and it was plugged into the wall, and the children were playing there. And my son, he was a little, I don't know, he was being mischievous. I don't know. No one was in the room when he went and was putting like a penny, like somehow in between the socket and I don't know what he was doing over there. But basically, what happened was the thing blew up, and the thing so powerful, thing blew up that the penny melted, and melted, and it flew and became embedded in the floor. And the two prongs that were of this adapter that was in the wall, the whole entire thing flew out. The two prongs ripped off the piece of the adapter, and both of them embedded in the floor, in the carpet. They had all three embedded in the carpet, and they had to be peeled off the floor.
No,
and the
it
penny,
was so hot.
and
It
the
was so
penny,
hot
and the penny was half totally gone. And Baruch Hashem, the two kids were standing there,
Nothing happened.
and didn't hit them at all or anything, and they had no idea what happened, Bichlal. And
Wow.
It was 220 or 110?
I saved the pieces that we have on the floor. I still have the burnt in the carpet. It went really in deep in the carpet.
The plug was
It was
220?
stuck to the carpet.
No,
The
220 or 110?
regular, like,
Regular,
no,
it's
not
110
like this.
Zechel Churban, you saved it. Wow, this was...
Now the little ones always look at it. They point. They say fire, fire.
You said Gomer?
Just to know that on the plug, they're selling
The
cover.
question is, children should say gomel, you know.
Just to know that they're selling in the cover something that in order to plug, you have to move with your hand and then plug it in. You can't put anything inside. For
So the
safety.
children
For
can't pull
yeah.
it out. It's very good.
They have these
It's like
pieces they put in.
$5-6.
They pull it out. Yeah.
No, you can't plug anything in, only if you move it with 2 fingers. You need 2 hands. You move and then you can plug in. It's safety for children.
I have to do that.
We have it
I
right
did it
here.
in my house because I have
Right here
grandchildren.
we have it.
No,
Nice
I said
one.
one time one of the
Where did you
grandchildren.
see this?
I bought it by Eichler.
Thank you.
Here. The white one.
Oh, that's what it is?
That's it. We close it here, shops.
Ah.
Now, Sif Yud Beis. I'm a
No,
shamer
I'm not talking
shmonim.
about this cover, not this
Not
cover.
this?
For
No.
children, he's talking about.
The plug right here, this plug. If I want to put something, let's say a little kid now want to put inside now, he could, right?
Yeah.
So he has a cover, it's cover. In order to do, you move like this with your finger, then you could plug something in. So the kid cannot push anything inside,
Yeah, Rabbi Sai,
which I love.
Sif Yud Beis. You know, I want to bring up something that could be negeya. You know, we don't really think this way, but when I think about the halachas habayir, it makes me think that, you know, we clean up the Shabbos table after the meal Friday night. We all had soup and everything, and a lot of times people have leftover soup, and you have liquid and you have the solids in the soup. Now, people don't like to put liquids in their garbage can because, you know, liquid's going to leak and
in the
everything. So you like to pour it in the sink. What you pour in the sink, you don't want the solids on your sink going in the sink. You usually hold it back and you let it go out. You basically do bayr, right? Now, so on Shabbos, I didn't want to do it. So people usually, so you pour it in the sink. But I was thinking in the bottom of the sink, there's basically a sifter. What is it on the bottom of the sink? The drain. The drain is a sifter. And what happens? The liquids go down and it holds up the solids. Is that bayr? So I was thinking over here in the ending of Sifid Aleph, what we just learned, if you put something in the sifter, but you didn't have,
Attention.
you didn't move the sifter, you didn't shake it, it happened on its own, it's not a clear heta from here, because from here, it's could be that if you had kavana, you're doing a dafke to do that, it could be still a problem. So it's not a clear heta from here, but I think from later halachas, when it's not for eating purposes, I'm not doing it to eat. So I didn't create, meaning I didn't create any tikkun over here. They're both going to the garbage. They're both going to go to the garbage. The question is which garbage? I want to put the liquids down the drain, and I want to put the solids in the garbage. So I want to separate it. I want to do boirer, but not boirer to I should be able to eat. I want to do
You're
boirer.
not doing any work here?
I'm doing boirer to
What about when you put
to-
the garbage you have in the kitchen? You have a
throw it out.
You have a bottle can, and you have a paper can, and you have
Oh.
a garbage can. And if you're going to clean, the bottle you put here, the garbage you put there, the paper you put here, your mom is here.
Okay, but big items that stick out is not like boirer. I can't say that these two are boirer. They're not mixtures. They're not. You have to have a mixture of something where.
Is Bowe more indicative of foods or eating products? Or is it for...
Even other items. You have little beads and things like that. Other things would also be an issue. If you have boirer, it could be. If people have a whole pile of coats, it could possibly be up, and you want to pull out.
You want to pull out your coat.
So your coat, you could pull out. You're taking the good, and you're going to use it right away. Now, I'm doing it for
I'm
immediate
pulling out
use.
my coat.
But what happens if you don't see your coat? So you decide I want to move everyone's. So if you can't get to your
Go
coat,
outside.
if you can't get to your coat, so it's like the peels. It's like the peels of the fruit. I can't get to it, so I have to peel it away. So you're allowed to do it. It's just thinking a little bit.
How about would you mention that you have the left in the bottom of your bowl have soup and salad? What if you want to eat the salad, not the soup, and take a fork? Is that to eat the salad and leave the soup? Is that also liar? Because you're taking what you
Ochel
want.
mo ochel. You're talking about food from food.
Well, separate.
This
By
is
the
food,
way,
this is
you're not allowed to use spoons. A lot of times people put in the cholent
Yeah.
or other things. They use special spoons that have holes in it, perforated spoons. You've seen them.
Slotted.
So the liquid should come out,
Slotted.
and the salad should stay in the spoon.
So they don't want the juice. Let's say.
Right?
Oh.
But if it doesn't bother them, it's okay. Most of the time, that's why you let it do it, because you want everything. It's a regular thick cholent, mediocre cholent.
So it's not secretion.
It's not bothering you. It happens to be if they're going
Only it's more liquidy.
Not to take the. It's only if it's a very soupy cholent that you want the.
So let's say somebody eats soup and he only wants the noodles. He eats with a fork. But he's taking the. So,
Or geen met toch ochel. It's not ochel met toch solid.
but he doesn't want.
He does, but the liquid is not solid. It's food also.
Yeah.
Nobody forced me to eat in the table this and this. I could eat what I want. So I want to eat only the salad from the soup. I could eat it. The other
And
one is
leave
not
the
solid.
soup.
No, but I don't want
And
to
you
eat.
could leave the soup.
Yeah,
Good
I don't want to
question,
eat
good
it.
question.
It's food from food, so it's okay.
I mean, listen. Using a fork for the soup would be, it might be questionable because it's not the normal way to eat this soup. So you're sort of like trying to make a selection process here.
So let's say you have a liquid.
So you're using a
cholent,
keli.
a liquidy cholent. So you said to serve it.
So if you're
with a
serving
slotted
with these
spoon,
spoons,
you
you do it without perforated.
No, but it's ready in your bowl with the soup, and you don't want the liquid, so you eat the cholent with a fork, so you're leaving the liquid behind. You said to serve you can't with a slotted spoon, but to eat with a slotted spoon
well,
with a fork, the
Well,
cholent
first of
in your
all,
own bowl.
you're taking the good from the bad. You're taking the good
So
from
the
the
same
bad.
thing when you're serving from the pot, you're taking what you want, you're taking the good from the.
But it's not
Yeah, but
bad.
I'll tell you
what
the
you
only chiluk is, the difference is when you put a fork on a potato, you're just pulling out the potato. You're not doing butter. When you take a spoon, which is like a sifter, you're actually sifting it. You're actually doing a certain process of butter. So if you don't have
It's
any
hard to
other
be a Jew.
spoon and you're not using it,
So the same thing when you eat from your bowl, you don't want the liquid part from the cholent. Some cholent are very liquidy, so you eat it with a fork. So I don't see the difference between serving from a pot or with this. The result is the same.
I'll tell you, if you're eating the normal manner of eating, it will be okay. But if you're doing it you can also say the same thing with a spoon. Also, when you stick in a spoon into a soup and you pull out the potato, whenever you're using a utensil, well, it's an eating utensil. It's not a boirer utensil. It's not an issue.
So a fork,
A knife, a fork,
a
spoon.
fork can be a bar utensil.
But if
you
you're
want.
So if you use it in the soup, I would say it could be an issue. Like if you say it in an abnormal way, then it shows.
Who eats soup with the
No,
fork?
Saying if he wants to eat-
cholent, you don't want the liquid.
But it's normal to eat cholent with the forks. I don't, you know.
Some will eat with spoon, some eat with fork.
I mean, listen, if you're, I have to think about it. If you're pulling it out, if you're dafki using a fork because you want to make this bayra, then maybe it's an issue. If you just stick the fork on the top of the potato, it's not an issue. Bayra is very nitty gritty. Bayra, the halachas of bayra are the most.
Yeah, how about, taking out a utensil from the drawer? If they're all mixed.
So if they're all in their own compartments, it's not an issue. If they're all mixed, so then you got to be careful to take what you want and not what you don't want.
But what if you take a whole bunch and just put it on the table and then take what you want?
Well, you could always take it. One of the easy ways to get out of bayra sometimes is to make it no longer a mixture. So if you could take it and spread it around on the table, automatically I could just take what I want and you could put it all back in the container. If I can't get to it, so spread it out and make it no longer a mixture. It's only when it's ma'uravin, like we said at the beginning of oichel pseils ha'muravin. Oichel pseils that are mixed together. But if it's not mixed together, there's no issue. Okay, Sif Yud Beis. Wine, we're not used to this, but wine has in it pieces of the grapes, the sediments, the pieces of the grapes on the bottom.
You still have that today.
Not
still exists.
Depends on which
wine.
There's sulfites, little pieces that lay the sediment.
Right.
Still exist.
Wine do they sell in the stores?
Sure.
Of
course. I would imagine it's the better wines.
The better wines, maybe. Okay, so I'm not...
Not decanted perfect.
But yeah, there is sediment still in wine today.
But
where are you going with this?
Pieces on the bottom, like
Kilo, you could say them. I'm not going to say to you it's actually shtikalech.
But over here we're talking about like bigger pieces, like when they make wine. Wine always has to be sifted out to be strained from all the when they crush the grapes and everything has to be strained from the pieces that are in the wine. Yud Beis, Hamashamer Shmarim, someone who sifts out these pieces in the wine. The Hainu Hamasanim and Mashmeres, Hareza Toldas Bayrer, that is a Tolda of Bayrer. That is the same concept as Bayrer. Oichel.
Wait a minute, you need to explain to me. Hamashamer Shmarim, the Hainu.
What does it mean, Mashamer? Mashamer Shmarim. Mashmarim means the pieces.
Preservatives, aren't they?
No, shmarim are those pieces that we find on the bottom of wine barrels, and before
from the leftover grapes.
Yeah.
So what's Hamasana?
Masana means sifting them.
What is it?
Sifting. With a meshameres, which is what's used for. It's sort of like a. To sift it. It's sort of like a strainer. You have like some type of tight cloth, let's say.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
A cheesecloth.
Hareza toildas bayrer. It's a tolda derivative of bayrer. And the way it happens is you're taking the oichel mitoich hapsoilis. When you pour it onto this mishameris and you pour it into you pour the barrel over this sifter.
Oh yeah, and it strains out
the bad parts. Yeah. That is taking the oichel from the psoilis, but the problem is you're doing it ayidei nafa ukvara through a formal sifter, and that's an isser bayrer the Shabbos. Oi tolas merakid, or it's a derivative of merakid, which is sifting flour. It's a question. In the Mishkan, there was a few different types of processes that were similar to bayrer. They're called zaira, merakid, and bayrer. The Gemara has a machlokes whether sifting, straining wine does it fall under the category of bayrer or the category of merakid?
Merakid is what, to sift?
Yeah. The chayev and the yor chayev. Either way, your chayev is something which is also biblically min haTorah. The question is exactly what category it falls under. So the poskim themselves are not clear as to who exactly follow, and they bring down both opinions. It's either this or that. Abel nasem mishameres shmarim me'erev Shabbos. If someone put already strained the shmarim erev Shabbos, those the pieces, the sediments, I'm not sure what they're called, on erev Shabbos before Shabbos, moter litin aleim mayim b'Shabbos. then one is allowed to pour water on those pieces that are sitting on the strainer. On the top of the strainer, you have the pieces that were strained out. So now you pour water on it, and the water gets the taste out of some leftover taste, which is inside the pieces of the little pieces of grapes. You pour it on it, so you get sort of like a taste like a tasty wine tasting water, something like
a tea
that.
bag, basically.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's okay to do that on the Shabbos. Because what do? You're not doing boirer. The water you poured in is clean water. There's no dirt in the water. The pieces, the shmarim, the pieces of those pieces that you want to get rid of are sitting on top of the sifter. They're not going through the sifter. So the water just goes through the sifter. The only thing that you're getting is a taste, a little bit of color and taste of the wine. So you didn't do anything. There's no boirer, even though it's going through a sifter, the water, but nothing. You haven't made any selection. So what could be the answer?
So what does it mean? Shiachzerut Solalim L'Zov?
The Lashon, the language of it is not so clear what it means. But basically, this is what the Poskim understand it to mean. Shiachzerut L'Zov means that it's going to take out some of the taste and the color.
So you'll have almost a grape juice, a very
Right.
light wine
Right.
or a grape juice almost.
Right. Someone told me today how he makes grape juice for. He likes to make on Pesach to make his own.
Yeah.
He doesn't drink wine, but he can't drink wine. See, but he likes to make his own grape juice. He doesn't want products outside his house on Pesach to have
This is Chabad.
pure.
It's
So he made. He showed me that you can buy a 3 kettle. It's called a triple kettle. You can buy something called a triple kettle. You sit on the fire, and it has 3 compartments. It's a kettle with 3 compartments. On the very top kettle, it's all one on top of the other. You put the grapes. You don't need to crush the grapes. You turn on. You put the bottom. You put in
Flame.
You turn it on.
Yeah, but what's it about? Water?
Yeah, it's water.
And what happens? The
It
steam
steams.
rises?
It steams out the wine. Steams out the
juice from the grapes.
From the grapes, and it goes. The juice goes into the second kettle,
The middle chamber?
the middle chamber. And it's Gavaldik. He told me, and he told me when you crush the grapes, you have an issue with the mixture of the juice with all the pieces. When you steam it, there's basically very little dirt, very little particles or anything. It's very clean because it takes it out through steaming it. It just
Right. Wow.
it just makes them shrink and it pulls out.
Yeah.
That was
He doesn't need to add sugar, nothing. He just drink it like that.
He doesn't add sugar, but you could add. He told me, you could add some sugar, whatever you want.
Wow.
You can add some sugar. Regarding sulfites, what are sulfites? Sulfites is what they put into wines and grape juices to control the alcohol. Because when the alcohol sits, as a chemical, when the alcohol sits in the store and the company, it could start to ferment even
So it's
more.
like a
So they
preservative.
write on it it's 12%. Well, now it will be 13%. And a grape juice could maybe start to ferment. So in order to keep it, they put in it sulfites. So you'll see sometimes in the, I don't know if the wines write much on it, but maybe in the grape juice it might say somewhere contains sulfites. That's what it means, contains sulfites.
To make sure that the alcohol doesn't go higher.
Right, and
So
the grape
it's-
juice shouldn't ferment. You leave the grape juice around sitting for so long in a store, it's packaged, and
gets
the
spoiled.
company, it could start to ferment. It could become alcohol.
When Rubashkin was in jail, so they gave him grape juice to make kiddush.
They
So
thought
they
he's
came
gonna-
to his jail later on to check, sometime to see if they drug this. They found the grape juice they gave him. They consider this as alcohol, and they want to write them.
because it could ferment.
So they say, you gave me this, and you told me this is alcohol.
Sif Yud Gimel. We gotta go to Ma'ariv. But yeah, Mirza Hashem next.